this is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Good Friday evening. You are watching Dr. Politics and the Political Architect Show. 2022 is winding down fast. And we're having, it's been a fun year. A lot of things have happened over the years. Over the past year, I should say. We had our highs and lows and more lows. But all in all, we've had a better year than Joe Biden's had. Let's just say that. The stock market, not doing too well. The Fed raised interest rates again. And the only silver lining I'm finding is I can actually get an 18-month CD or a 12-month CD and get 4% interest, which I shouldn't be that happy about. But considering that for the longest time we were getting barely 1% on anything,
Yeah, but I mean it's all relative, right, Dwight? I mean,
yeah.
When interest rates were lower, and I mean, in terms of consumer rates, what we would get on our savings or whatever, inflation was lower, right? And to me, I mean, the gap between inflation and savings rates was relatively small. Now that rates are up, but yeah, so if you can get a 12-month or an 18-month CD for 4%, if inflation is running 7%, you're at a bigger gap there anyway. And we do expect the Fed to raise interest rates at least one more time in January or thereabouts, and push the rates up even higher before. It looks like they probably are not going to reverse track until maybe a year from now.
And I think, and here's the thing, it's nice to have those high interest rates, but they may as well still be at the same, because all the interest the higher interest rates we get is basically a wash with inflation. So it's not like we're really getting better, but it's psychologically nice to see that, hey, it's not stuck at 0.9% or 0.8%,
Yeah, I mean, it can be good for some people. I mean, psychologically, there's no doubt that it means something to people. There was a report in the Wall Street Journal story in the Wall Street Journal this past week about kind of like the 7 major banks, and Americans, how kind of complacent they are about their savings, and so the big banks have been stuck at 0.01 to 0.05 for lots of savings products.
Yeah.
And Americans don't seem to mind getting those rates to the tune that this is at the optimal, though. I mean, this is if people really were trying to move their money around and do it. But the estimate was that they lost $42 million in interest compared to if they had taken their money elsewhere, because you have these other things like Marcus by Goldman Sachs. I mean,
yeah, I actually have a couple of things over with Marcus, Goldman Sachs, because they actually were giving better interest rates than your traditional bricks and mortar banks like
they're doing the high yield savings, and Capital One was in there, and they varied. I think Marcus was doing better, paying more than most.
Yes.
They tended to raise their rates a little bit faster than the others when rates are going up, and they lowered them slower as rates were going down. So that but yeah, I mean, so we had a 50-point basis increase in the rate, but you're not seeing much in the way of increase in savings rates yet. They'll tick it up a little bit, but part of that whole thing too is that when we give our money, in essence, when we put our money into these banks and whatever, these accounts, they can't make any money unless they find people to lend the money to, so that they charge them more than they're paying us. And because of all that stimulus money, people, there were people, they were awash in savings. Banks actually had more money than they needed for their lending operation. So there was no incentive even for them on a competitive basis to even pay better rates.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, even my son, my youngest son, has finally awakened to that. He called me the other day about, I think it was Wealthfront, which is kind of a robo advisor for investments. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think they said they pushed their rates up to 3.8, uh, which is great. I told him, remember, they'll pay you that, but what they're going to want you to do is they're going to want your money for investing purposes, so they can charge you a small fee for the investments that are just going to be done, really by computer algorithms and not by anybody, not by a person. So, yeah, you can resist that, I told him, but it won't hurt you to take that rate if you don't have a better alternative.
And I've got no faith in robos doing it. I know Graham Stephan did a thing on his podcast about doing for a year. He did because there was a point when the stock market was going up, and a chimpanzee can pick stocks, and he picked the same stocks a chimpanzee picked, and he was doing really well. This year he didn't do as well,
Yeah.
with those chimpanzee stocks that he had. And I think this is really where, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised. I accidentally opened up one of my year-end statements, and I'm like, huh, I didn't lose as much as I thought I did.
Yeah.
And another one was the shocker of Washington. Huh? I made money on this. I'm ahead of where I was last year at this time.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned at the top there too about the stock market. I mean, there's definitely fears of recession, and it's washing over the market, and
Yeah.
stocks are taking a big hit, like everything else. And you
Mhm.
can't worry too much about that in the short term. The long term will probably still be fine, but it doesn't make Joe Biden and the Democrats' task any easier going forward.
Mhm.
When you've got this,
Yes.
we're seeing reports of layoffs virtually every day. Not just from
Mhm.
the tech industry, but from others, that they're kind of girding for a downturn enough that they need to cut costs now, their overhead now, to make sure that they stay afloat going forward.
Yep. And I do want to do a little PSA of sorts for Joe Biden. Joe Biden thinks it's Africa is one country. He thinks it's the Republic of Africa. He's going to let Africa into the G20 and so on. So this is for Joe. This is for old Joe. Let's
54 things, 54
just
things to see and to explore. In my Africa, whoa, whoa, whoa. In my
Or is
Africa,
this?
This is from there's a kid show called Arthur.
continent
Oh
of
yeah,
Africa
yeah,
is
Yeah, and his little
with
sister
54
met
countries
someone from Africa in her kindergarten class or preschool class,
Rhythmic beats, new things to eat, and places
and
you can go.
she
And
confused
every
Africa with
day,
Oklahoma.
a different way that you can say
Because she
hello.
mentions how that's where the wind goes
Bangaboo
whipping down
is
into
howdy
the
do
flames.
When visiting in Ghana,
So,
Dumelama is how you say
her
hello
teacher
in
said, "Hey, why don't you
Botswana.
let me a fun project?" So, yeah, Joe Biden could vastly learn from watching this video, this little children's cartoon,
Burundi's got the deepest
before he
lake
went
and
to
then the highest peak.
attended the African summit this week.
just next door to Mozambique.
And carving through the continent, there flows
they do
the
a really good
mighty
job.
Nile.
Past Uganda, Eritrea, and look out!
A crocodile. Namibia's wild skeleton coast is littered with wrecked ships. And Cote d'Ivoire has chocolate fields. I love my chocolate chips. Victoria Falls in Zambia, it makes a mighty sound. Zimbabwe shares the falls as well. There's lots
But
to
Joe,
go
you know where to
around.
find this on YouTube, so you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, I'm looking at this, trying to figure out. So what Biden wants, or is open to, is having the African Union join the G20. South Africa is currently the only G20 member from Africa, but
Mhm.
he's basically saying, go ahead, take the union of 55 member states and put them in there. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really not sure exactly how unified Africa is. That
Yeah, I mean,
you put
DW
you
just
put them
told
in,
us
you put
there's
them into the
54
you put
diverse.
them into this thing. It's like I don't know.
I mean, DW told us it's 54 diverse countries, independent. They've got their own identity. I don't think that's going to quite work out well. I mean, this just shows what a maroon the guy is. The guy thinks, Africa is, you know, and this is all about his green agenda at the end of the day. How about you let these countries use coal fire plants so they can actually raise their standard of living instead of forcing them to go green, so to speak? And never mind the slave laborers that's digging up all the cobalt for the batteries for all the Teslas that people drive.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, the thing too is just that, I mean, you say, okay, we've got, it says, Gordia says, yeah, there's 55 member states, into the African Union, and then put them in there as a permanent member of the G20. You might as well just
Or would
say,
it be
why
the
don't we do the
G21
same thing with
then?
the European Union or something like that? I mean,
Yeah.
let's just create total chaos in the G20.
Yeah.
At this point in time, I'm not crazy about it to begin with, but this looks like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. And I think we have too many countries in the G20, frankly.
Yeah, well, that's my point. Is this it's unwieldy enough as it is, and I don't know. I mean, Africa. I mean, I'm not saying a whole lot about, say, South America either, but Africa. You know, a lot of those countries are some of the most corrupt countries in the world,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and that you're going to basically invite this group as a whole into the G20.
Yeah.
How do these guys all get
Yeah. I
together and
mean, look
agree
at the
to?
countries we have in the G20, okay? You've got Mexico, you got Brazil, you got Argentina, you got Turkey, you have India, you have Indonesia, China. And these countries have a lot of problems with corruption. Saudi Arabia's in this. They've got, their sponsors of. Honestly, there was nothing wrong with just the G7, frankly.
Yeah,
And maybe we should just have a G1 with the United States, frankly, and or a G2 with us in the British Empire, frankly. It's like these. That's kind of and these people are doing a lot of evil things right now. The United Nations is trying to ban fertilizers. I mean, they've destroyed Sri Lanka with the bans of phosphates and various fertilizers, so they're not growing the food that they once did. That's why uh, diesel diesel and gasoline is very, very expensive. It's basically people can't afford it. That's how expensive it's gotten. And they're doing this in Ireland, the Netherlands. I mean, they want to ban fertilizer. I mean, this is just a sinister, evil plot. This is something that Lex Luthor and the Legion of Doom would think of, frankly, of cutting down the food supply. And they don't seem to understand what's going on here. And it's all in the name of Greta Thunberg and Al Gore's uh, green agenda, frankly.
but Dwight,
And
the fertilizer has nothing to do with the food supply. It's all about climate change that's going to create the food shortage. It's not going to be the lack of fertilizer, right?
yeah, yeah, it's like it's just funny how these people feel, that they somehow seem to have the whole idea figured out. And it's like, look, there the planet has been here a lot longer than we have. I think the planet is healthier than I think we can. And by the way, if these environmentalists really cared about the environment, they would be going for nuclear power. They would be all in for nuclear, but yet they are dead set against nuclear power. And nuclear power is the cleanest, cheapest, efficient form of energy. We could replace coal-fired plants with nuclear plants, but the left won't let you have that. And that's the biggest problem we have is, they think windmills and solar and so on is going to be so great for having using alternate forms of energy. But no, you can't get the wind power and solar. Just ask the people in Texas last winter. you can't generate enough power. You need coal. You need oil. You need nuclear. You got to have all the options on the table. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, and every situation is different. I mean, the environmentalists are, they keep trying to sell everybody on the fact they think that, it's going to be sunny all the time everywhere, and the wind's always
Yeah.
going to blow everywhere. And it's like,
Hmm.
no, we know that doesn't happen. I mean, our area
Very
here
true.
in the DMV, I mean, we get a fair amount of sunny days during the year, but we got tons of cloudy days.
Yeah, I mean, look at
Mhm.
yesterday. Imagine if
Yeah,
you, I mean, how'd your solar panels do yesterday, John?
I'm pretty sure it generated pretty much like at nil.
Exactly. And they don't seem to get. It's like they've taken a leave of their senses if they had any sense. It's these folks, are very very basically they're just short sighted. They don't know. They don't know what they don't know. Frankly, it's all about them, and it's all about saving the environment. But never mind they're increasing poverty and starvation and hunger throughout the world. Or is that also part of their war on obesity by making people hungry and making food less available so people they'll solve the world obesity problem.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
I don't know. You probably saw that story too about as you talk about all these green things like this, where Stellantis, which was formerly, which was a combination now of what Chrysler and some other
yeah,
company,
yeah,
Volvo and think some other companies, they meshed them all together. They're gonna idle a Jeep plant, uh, partially because the cost of developing their EVs needs to be offset somewhere. So, there's tens of thousands of people that are probably going to lose their jobs because, Stellantis has made this big pledge towards EVs,
yeah,
which, because President Biden wants what, he wants an EV future by what, 2035 or something like
yeah,
that. So you know, it, it, Obama promised all these green jobs, and we really haven't seen them. I mean,
yeah.
and Biden is continuing to,
Solyndra, anyone?
yeah,
People forget
Belinda,
about
right?
Solyndra.
And under Biden, they're pouring all kinds of money into the green, agenda, but it's really just such a fake thing at this point, for what they're doing there. We're all going to suffer. Luckily, we haven't totally given up on things, and just to see the way it's going is really a shame. But we look at Europe. We've talked about Europe, and as you were mentioning too, you know, they need they're a prime candidate for using more nuclear power, not less,
I
right?
tell you, the Germans shut down all their nuclear plants, right? What they should, and that's fine. You saw this war coming in the springtime with Ukraine, and the Russians were going to use their pipeline as a tool of war and weapon. Why didn't the Germans fire up? I know it takes time to fire up a nuclear plant, but come on, if they started in March or April, I'm sure they'd have at least two nuclear power plants online by now or more. I mean, it's not a. I mean, it doesn't take 6 months to bring a nuclear plant online. It does take time, but not 6 months. If they brought back their nuclear plant, they would be energy independent right now. They would not. They could tell Vladimir Putin go suck it. Right now instead of oh please give us some. Once it's kind of like it's like that Everybody Loves Raymond episode where he bought Deborah a bunch of pots so she'd let him go have golf, and the father goes, "I don't do that. That for me." He goes, "I don't do that sort of stuff."
Yeah, and I don't think Merkel had completely shut everything off when all this stuff was going. I mean, with all this stuff that was developing, they you could see stuff on the horizon. It's like just stop the plans to close everything down, and
Yep.
you would be better off. But it's kind of like they're just they made this promise and they have to go to it. But yeah,
Hmm.
Germany should really look at just basically how much time and money it would take to restart their plants and
Hmm.
do that because they're being held hostage. All these countries are being held hostage by Russia,
Yeah.
and that's the last thing anybody really wants to have happen is to do that.
Yeah. I mean, they could go back to the future and do metallurgy. to solve their, solve their energy needs, and it's a real dirty process, you enviros, but that's what you're, and they don't seem to understand that this is just Looney Tunes, pretty much. We can't have, they can't keep doing this sort of stuff, it's like these people think, make everybody equally miserable is the solution. That is not the solution. I say let's give the third world, developing world, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the PC term is these days. Is it third world or developing world? Let's give them a hand up. Let's tell them, drill for oil, mine the coal, build your coal plants, you know, build roads, sell automobiles, and so on. And I remember back when I was in college, this was in India and China were just starting their, well, India, I should say, starting their modernization efforts like liberalization, privatizing everything. And somebody had made a comment that, would it be cool if all the Indians had, if every Indian had a car to drive around in, opposed to being reliant on trains and mass transit? And I go, that'd be awesome because that's how you have democracy. You get freedom from having your own automobile, your means of transportation. You can go anywhere you want. And this kid jumps up and goes, you know what happened if the billions of people there all had a car? We'd all be dying because all the greenhouse gases that be emitted from all those cars. And here we are in 2022 in most. Indians have at least one car, many have two, some have a car and a motorcycle. And they all have cars, they're all living well, and and we're not all choking. We are not choking and dying, frankly. Uh, these people, what they want to do is they want to just, I think, a lot of these enviros want to keep these countries down pretty much intentionally.
Yeah, no, I mean,
That's
I
it might
think that's
be
definitely.
environmental bigotry. It's like we've done it. I remember the UN has such a crazy, kooky ideas. Like, they wanted to. There was a time in the '90s they wanted us to reserve space for developing countries that aren't space, have not put anything in space, but reserve space for them for the one day if they do develop the technology, rocketry, and are able to put something in space. We give them space to hang a satellite in a reserving space, so on. And I'm like, that's kind of kooky. It's like idiotic. Why would you do that? You need to do every country. Just like I tell people, I give advice. I go, look, you got to look out for yourself first, and then everyone else. You can't stop. Like, there's a person I know. He goes, oh, I'm worried about this person losing. I'm like, worry about your own self first. You don't need to be worried about everyone and their cousin losing their jobs. You are the most important person for your own agenda, frankly. It's really nice that you're thoughtful and you care about other people losing their jobs, but you're in the exact same boat if you lose your job, you know. And countries need to think of themselves first, And this whole environmental, it's all basically this green movement. Rush Limbaugh used to always say it. Mark Morano said this green movement is basically where all the communists went after the fall of the Soviet Empire. You know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truism right in that. And you look at those people that are leading the environmental movement, and you're like,
Yeah.
they are so far off of things. It's just, it's unbelievable.
Look at King Chuck 3. He's a big enviro, but he flies around with the least energy efficient airplane there is. It has to stop somewhere in Greenland to refuel when it's coming to America. He could get a British Airways 747 and fly from London to Washington without having to refuel in Greenland. But he's flying some. I forget what the plane it is. He flies some really inefficient airplane. At least Francois Mitterrand flew around on a Concorde when he was prime minister in France. He used to fly in and have lunch with President Reagan. Well, he did that once, I know. And Phil Collins did a concert in the morning, and then he flew on a Concorde, jumped on a Concorde. It was in Philadelphia. He did a concert that night. We need to embrace technology. That's just my point, my 2 cents on this. And I think the way the world is going right now, we're basically, it's kind of the Unabomber's. This is the Unabomber's grand vision of a technology-free world. These guys, they want to outlaw the combustion engine. They want to force us all on into basically tenements or dwellings. That's what Thrive 2050 is all about, is high density housing by rail, which is basically a boondoggle for developers, frankly. And what happened to the environmentalist green space? Do they not understand that you're wiping out all the green space? And what about, where's all the water going to run off? I remember they were trying to build the ICC and other roads. They always talk about the environmental impact and how you're obstructing the natural flow of water. The water, you're going to do this. You're going to kill the poor smelt and so on. It's like, come on. What do you think is going to happen when you have all these high density housings? That water is going to got to go somewhere, and they need to. And they're not against. They're all for green spaces until they aren't for them, frankly.
Yeah, if you're worried about rainwater runoff and stuff like that, then you're not building these complexes and everything else like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that's only helping to contribute to the problem in the
Yeah,
end.
I
So
understand some people like condo living. I personally would never want to live in a condo because I like to garden. I like to have the green space. I know they'll go, oh, you get a bucket and plant. I'm sorry, no. Plants don't grow as well in a bucket as they do in the ground, frankly. You get a higher crop when you put them in the ground. And I do use Miracle Grow, as my liberal friend was. You're giving your plants steroids. I'm like, I don't care. They taste so good when that happens. I get so many. you know. But that's and there's been a lot of things. The Democrats have had a lot of egg on their face this week. We've seen it from Sam Bankman-Fried. Who, by the way, has he put out the word that he's not suicidal? I know he's been taken into custody right before he's about to speak to Congress. I wonder if Maxine Waters has some splaining to do about all the money she got from him. And and the guy's like, oh, he's a billionaire that these people liked because he had a heart. He drove around a Toyota Camry, and I'm thinking like. And by the way, Sam, you could have given us $10,000. We would have sponsored your FTX nonsense too, frankly. But you didn't even come to us, offer us any of that stuff. But I think it is really bad what these people are doing. And the fact is, remember the outrage when Enron happened or Bernie Madoff? And Bernie Madoff also funded a lot of Democrats. But the left and those people are silent on FTX. Enron, so many people lost their money. It's all George W. Bush's fault. Never mind the fact that George W. Bush's mother-in-law lost money on Enron. And investing is not for the faint of heart. It's like, imagine all those people that bought stock in Kodak, Don.
well,
Eastman Kodak.
for a long time, it was a great company, but
Exactly. But people who held on to it when they saw digital cameras coming.
yeah. Yeah,
And
but on SBF, I mean, this guy, what a charlatan and a con man. I mean, he's
oh
out
yeah,
there trying to be innocent. It's like, I really didn't have an idea about the day-to-day operation. I didn't have, I think people will be able to recover most of their money. I mean, the guy kind of taking over right now says, he basically says that Freed is Sam Bankman-Fried is this was a big con, just it was totally fraudulent. I mean, that he knowingly let
this is basically Bernie
Alameda
Madoff on
Research use
steroids.
money, and they used it on a lot of stuff, but they used investors' money in the wrong way. They didn't have the
Mm-hmm.
permission to do it. Yeah, people aren't getting their money back. I mean, this
No,
guy, he just totally drained and ruined the company.
yeah. I mean, and here's the thing: it's like this is worse than Madoff. Madoff created a pyramid scheme where the people who got on early got their money back, so to speak. Because as he grew the pyramid, people above him got the money. And this guy is worse. This guy should be in a U.S. jail.
Yeah, I mean, as Robin says, I mean, it would have been interesting to hear him testify before Congress to see what he would have said. in that setting.
I agree, Robin. Definitely, they should have let him. Before, and something, they can still extradite him here. We have an extradition treaty with the Bahamas. And he could come in shackles, and they could let him testify before Congress. Bring two marshals, bring them in, and let him tell his story, so to speak.
So
And
Dwight, let me ask you this though. I mean, so he was going to testify. How hard would the Democrats be? I mean, the Democrats are still in control of Congress here for a few more weeks.
yeah,
If he had testified,
this is
would they have questioned him about his political donations and the legality
yeah.
of what he did there? You
Let me tell
know?
you, Maxine Waters would have gone sugar, and it's like, did you know this? You didn't know about all this stuff happening, did you? You weren't a con man. You're just a nice boy. You remind me of my grandson, or great grandson in her case, probably. Uh, these people would treat him with such kid gloves. It's kind of like it'd be embarrassing. It's like how they treat Mayorkas when he comes before Congress, and these guys, are reprehensible. I mean, these members of Congress need to give that money back. Who got money from Bankman Fried? Nobody's really even making there's not much fuss being made about them forcing them to return money. But if you recall, when we had another similar scandal, Enron giving money to people, to members of Congress, and by the way, Enron giving money is not even the same as this. But the outrage was there. A lot of members of Congress took that money that Enron gave and gave it to charity and stuff like that. And the fact that the way these people are just ignoring, it's their double standards on the left, frankly. And we know what our friend Chris Plant says about double standards in Democrats. They'd have no standards if they didn't have double standards. I'm not defending Ken Lay and Enron, but let's you got to be fair and even-handed, sort of. But that's something. I mean, the media has also pretty much have treated him with kid gloves, pretty much. MSNBC, CNN, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still kind of, you know, we don't, we can't believe that this 30-year-old kid managed to do all this, build up this company, and then basically wind up stealing it all, spending it all on personal things and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. You, you know, it's supposed to be we're supposed to have learned lessons from Enron and all these fraudsters and the Madoffs over the years,
Mm-hmm.
but we haven't. I mean, and you know that this will probably result in some kind of regulation by the SEC on crypto. Uh, you know, people who support crypto for the most part. I mean, they like the fact that it isn't regulated, but that's also increases the risk. And we're seeing a huge collapse on the crypto side.
Mm-hmm.
For this, especially, I've never quite understood, the whole thing about uh, how they create their own crypto. FTX has
Yeah.
their own crypto, everybody, and stuff like that. It's like, so exactly where is the value when you create your own crypto? It's like, are you setting the value? You kind of set the value, and then you let the market decide after that. It's
Yes.
it seems like completely phony
Hey
money.
Don, this is going to be my crypto. It's the Dwight coin. It's got a happy face on it, and this is going to be my. And I'm going to say it's worth. One of these is worth $10 million. That's pretty much how it's like. If you remember our friend Bill Lind, he used to talk about the tulip trades. They used to trade bulbs on the exchange until it's just a damn root. I really see crypto as a lot like the tulip trades and all that. And honestly, I don't. If the threat wasn't there of eliminating cash and so on, the digital dollar that Joe Biden through executive fiat pushed through this week, it's insane. This is all about. I mean, there's a reason why there's people that are older than us, Don, that never trusted banks. They would keep a large sum of money under their mattress or wherever, in a safety box, whatever. And this whole thing about the Biden administration wanting to get reports from transact. What is it? $600 if you take $600 cash out, they want that reported. I mean, in the Joe Biden economy, $600 is what it's soon going to be like a week's grocery with the price of gas as it is, and and it's very much a big deal, frankly. And that's I think why we're seeing more people going to crypto as a result of that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's true. I mean, that change that they pushed through where
Mm-hmm.
transactions went from on from the all these different operations, the PayPal's and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
all those kinds of things, fintech, to where it went from $20,000 was the threshold to $600. That's going to cause a lot of headaches,
Mm-hmm.
and it does I think push people to alternatives like crypto. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I was
Yeah, and,
I, s-
and
I keep thinking about El Salvador and crypto, and then I saw that picture of our old friend Illyrio with his wife. They're they're Team Potato Head or something like that for something or other in January and some feature, and he's wearing his Bukele, the El Salvador president, his baseball cap, and I'm thinking like, yeah, well that's been an utter disaster for El Salvador. Is they adopted Bitcoin, and it's not going very well for them at all.
mm-hmm. And it's like this all plays into all the banks, all the experts, all the wise folks are now calling for a recession in 2023. It's basically now just a question of how bad this recession is going to be. I'm not a Democrat. I don't wish a recession for political gains, which the Democrats do. They all through the Bush years they were praying for a utter collapse, as they did during the Trump days. You had Bill Maher praying for a massive crash of the economy, so Donald Trump wouldn't win again. And that's one of and I think it's going to be. I hate to say, I think it's going to be pretty bad. The recession is not going to be a light recession. It's going to be. I think it's going to be a tough one. But we will get through this. Frankly, at the end of the day, we will get through it. It's not something that we'll get through this. We will be going through this, and it'll be bad, but I think we'll get through it, and we'll come out on the other side probably stronger than before. But we need to make some sound fiscal policies. I think some of these members of Congress need to stop treating the Treasury like their own personal piggy bank on pork projects. I mean, they've got. I mean, right now, and I don't see the rush of them pushing. They want to do that omnibus bill to keep the government going. And my view is this: there's no reason why you can't just shut the government down between Christmas and New Year's. No, most civil servants are on vacation. The government, you can keep the government shut down for 2 weeks and no one's going to miss it, frankly. I mean, a lot of people didn't miss it. Last time they shut the government down, when Chuck Schumer did it back in the Trump era, Trump days.
Yeah, I mean, well,
But
even when the government is shut down, I mean, where then federal employees started going, oh no, we're losing our paychecks, but they always get the money in the end, right?
they
You know,
do,
the,
yes. And remember, I want to say it was the Schumer shutdown number one, where these two USDA employees started their cheesecake business, and they basically quit their government jobs because they were making so much money with their cheesecakes, which you can buy at Walmart, by the way. And they're local. They're I think out of Bowie, two sisters that are working for some government agency, probably NSA or USDA or something out there. Anyways, or some could be someplace downtown. Um, and I believe they were calling it. I forgot the name of the cheesecake. I want to say they were calling it Bowie cheesecakes or something like that. And they got so popular, and so entrepreneurship grows, through, and that's another thing. We will see people working smarter when things go bad, and we'll see offshoot. We'll see new businesses crop up during recessions. There is money to be made during a recession, as many of the experts would say.
I mean, recessions are part of an economic cycle. I mean,
Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
we've had them before. We will have them again. But
Hmm.
as you said, I mean, part of it is depends on how, how deep this recession will be.
Yep.
And
Hmm.
will it be longer duration or shorter duration? We don't really know, but we can see the beginnings, as I had alluded to earlier. It's just that we've had lots of layoff announcements coming up.
Hmm.
Uh, as companies are thinking that 2023 is going to be kind of a rough year for them,
Yes.
so they've got to bring their costs in line to be able to preserve their profits. Well, look, it's Jason.
How are you feeling, Doctor Trot? I hope you're feeling better. I think
Well,
with the
Dwight, we know the Republican convention last week was a super spreader, right?
yes, it was, and I think Jason was patient zero. He was he was spreading the flu to everyone. We kid, Doctor Trot. We kid. And it was a good convention. Uh, and but it's this recession, and I wonder who Joe Biden's going to blame for the recession: Russia or Republicans, or perhaps both. Or does he blame somebody completely different? You know. Uh, and by the way, speaking of Russia and Ukraine, we're coming up on a year of that war.
Yeah, it's amazing how, I mean, and we're getting into a period where it's going to, it's winter. It's,
Hmm.
the conditions are horrible,
Yeah.
and are only going to get worse for the next few months. So yeah, maybe there'll be some shelling on both sides, but I don't
Hmm.
expect much on the ground,
Hmm.
to go on with those kind of conditions. But yeah, this this whole thing, obviously, we continue to say this has gone on far longer than Putin had planned to go with
This is
this.
like the Dominion Wars. The
Yeah,
Cardassians thought they'd have the Federation at their knees in a couple of days, and evidently the war went on for 3 seasons.
yeah. And he doesn't seem to have an exit strategy here yet.
Yeah.
You know,
Honestly, if Vladimir Putin were smart, what he'd do? He'd sue for peace. He'd say, "Yeah, I'll even give you back Crimea," you know, and then just go back and and he could come out as he could even do this. He could even declare victory, but he goes, "In my benevolence, I will be giving back Ukraine to the Ukrainian people, including Crimea, because I'm such a gosh darn it good guy." And he could save face, and it would end the problems, frankly. However, he's not going to do that because he's not a good guy. He's not very bright, frankly. And he is going to go to the bitter end, frankly. And I don't understand. And Robin has a comment. Yes,
yeah,
very true, Robin. That is true. We have a full scale invasion going on, and right now, in a few days, I think it's going to be even more because what is it? Title 41 is about to expire.
yeah, 42. Except wasn't there
42,
something?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
42,
yeah, I mean,
41.
yeah, it's and the news reports that I've seen are just, it looks like that people are they're ready. I mean, they're ready to
Oh,
really
they're
come
at, it's kind of
together.
like the starting line at the New York Marathon. They're all lining up.
Yeah, and once again, El Paso, Texas, a Democrat city, they're worried. I mean, they've had a hard time already with those that have come
Hmm.
across, and they're sort of, we can't handle this potential invasion coming across there once 42 ends. Um, so it's
And you got the Biden administration now suing Arizona for building their own border wall. You
yeah. You
know,
mean the those containers?
Yes. By the way, those shipping containers, you can buy those really cheap. When I was doing the Ray Kroll story, Ray used to buy them for $1,000 a piece because evidently they can only use it for ships are only allowed to use those containers for I think 5 years, and they got to do something with them. So, and you know, that is sad. 120 Marylanders under 25 died. Wow, that's a big number, Robin.
Yeah, I mean the fentanyl thing is obviously. I mean we're seeing lots of reports about you know teens getting kind of I guess what is it it's spiked or fake fentanyl or the drug there's fentanyl laced drugs that were they thought they were buying one thing but they were laced with fentanyl and then they OD'd on them and everything like that.
Hey, Robin, would you like to come on and talk about fentanyl with us? I just sent you a link in Facebook. If you want, just click it and we'll bring you in, Robin. So if Robin wants to be on, I'll let him in. I'll bring him in. He's very
But
knowledgeable in the fentanyl crisis.
yeah, but he brings up a question in a sense in my mind too is that will the new governor try to try to continue to make fighting opioids and all these kinds of things as much as Hogan had tried to do during his time.
Well, I will tell you this, Robin. I think the current governor and the Democrats have their priority is going to be to raise taxes and fees on Marylanders. They're going to raise tolls. They're going to raise fees. They're going to bring back the Easy Pass fees. They're going to bring back the rain tax, the flush tax, you name it. They're going to bring it back. And they're going to raise our income taxes. And who knows, they may even raise the sales tax. That's how crazy and kooky they are. But Robin, if you want to join, I dropped a link in the chat. Hit the link and you can come on. But it's in Facebook, Robin. Your Facebook Messenger. Anyways, well, Robin, open up your Messenger on Facebook, and there's a link right there for you to click on. You click on that, and that's all you need to do, and you'll be in. Oh, that's right. You're doing this on your phone, so go to your Messenger on your phone.
Oh yeah, if he's on there, he needs to go to the Messenger app.
Yeah, so you need to go to the Messenger app, Robin. But anyways,
but I mean, I'm glad that at least Robin threw that in there for the sake of.
Yeah.
I mean, fentanyl is becoming a huge problem, and we see news reports, but I don't necessarily see politicians doing anything but giving it lip service as to what they want to do to solve it.
That's true, and it is a crisis. And we're seeing, and here's the thing, you just have to touch the stuff. And there's a case in New York City where there was a random traffic stop where the police officer touched some fentanyl, and they had to bring it. They had to take her into ER real fast.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got to watch it. That stuff is so deadly. It's like just having any contact or breathing.
I mean, people were afraid of anthrax. Remember back the anthrax scares of 2002, 2001. Okay, Robin. We'll talk after this, and we'll bring you on next week to talk about this stuff. We'll work it out. But you remember the anthrax scare? People were dropping flour rolls, and people are saying, "Oh my God, that's anthrax!" That's anthrax. This is anthrax. And so on. And fentanyl is a lot worse than anthrax. And it's not a fun. And I think that's going to be the big crisis for the second half of the Biden administration. I think, especially with this open borders, and they're soft on China policy. Joe Biden is soft on communism. I think we need to bring back Joe McCarthy's Committee on Un-American Activities. Frankly.
Yeah, that probably will never happen.
Absolutely not. And I also wanted to make Spiro Agnew's birthday a federal holiday, but that's also not going to happen either. But I'll tell you this.
Is there a statue of Spiro anywhere?
No, but I do want to. I want them to replace the Justice Taney statue with the Spiro Agnew,
Yeah, I'm
standing
saying
up.
like, look, I mean, if let's put
And let me
Spiro
tell
up
you,
there,
he's more ethical than Joe Biden. You know, and
right? I mean,
he's the farthest any Marylander has ever gone in he is the closest to ever becoming president than any
right.
other Marylander.
I mean, Spiro doesn't have any ties to anything racist or the
No, he was
Confederacy.
actually a reform. Spiro Agnew was actually one of the reform era governors. Uh, he actually called out the reprobates and racists within the Republican Party and cast them out. And a lot of them all went out and became Democrats. As his opponent that he beat in 1960, he did beat a devout segregationist racist Democrat in George Mahoney. And it's sad when they basically you have people like county executive Johnny O, who talks about weeding out the corruption in Baltimore County that's been around because of Spiro Agnew. Does that include the corruption that happened under the Jim Smith administration, where surprise, surprise, a certain councilman, his family would benefit from county property sales? They would somehow miraculously find out what was on sale and purchase it before it even hit the market. So I don't know, Johnny O. How about that? Was that corruption, or was that just Democrats being Democrats? I mean, it's really reprehensible that they say silent on Joe Biden's ethical violations, but they have to go all the way back 50 years almost to Spiro Agnew to make a point about corruption. I mean, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and the former mayor of Baltimore City, the former county executive of Baltimore County. I mean, really? Do you have to go all the way back 40, 50 years to mention, or it's just, that was a very partisan speech, Johnny O. And basically, Johnny O is getting ready to run for Congress or governor because he may primary Westmore, who knows, in 4 years. He may run for Dutch Ruppersberger may retire, and he may run and lose to Nicola Ambrose if she runs again for U.S. Congress in Maryland. So Johnny O, don't talk, glass houses. That's all I'm saying. Glass houses, Johnny. You know, uh, but yeah, that's my rant on Democrats in Baltimore County.
I hadn't even thought about Dutch retiring. I mean, it seems like people like that will just go on forever.
Yeah, it's like it's it is but it's Dutch really what he wanted to be was governor, but he didn't think he could beat Bob Barlett, so he ran for Congress in 2002. And then he probably thought he couldn't beat Martin O'Malley in a primary, so he didn't primary him in 4 years later. So Dutch is stuck being a member of Congress. And I mean, it's funny. Dutch Ruppersberger's dad was a Republican.
I mean,
Uh,
maybe Dutch can do the John Delaney then, right? Just try to run for president and then
there
disappear.
you go, Dutch for America. I'll do for America what I did for Maryland too. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you this. Let me say something nice about Dutch, because I've actually met him a couple of times. He's actually a very likable guy, and until recently he was not this crazy lefty until the Democrats started saying they wanted to primary him with somebody like they wanted a Democrat in the mold of Jamie Raskin and Chris Van Hall, opposed to a Dutch Ruppersberger Democrat. And that's why Dutch went more and more to the left, so he could beat back a Democrat primary from the left, and he'd probably lose that primary, frankly. But it's Democrats behaving badly. That should be a new segment we do in the new year for us. Democrats behaving badly. I think we'd have content for every single show we do.
Maybe Dutch should follow the Kirsten Cinema thing and declare himself an independent, see if he can avoid a Democrat primary and then win the seat or try to win the seat that way.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, Angus King does that in Maine all the time. Former governor. And he's really a Democrat, but it's like, I honestly, my view on independence is this: make a decision. You're either a Democrat or a Republican. Don't be in this wishy-washy land of, like in the neutral zone. Frankly, pick a side. Cling on to the Federation.
Well, I mean, I think yeah, I mean, the independents always are kind of, make me kind of wonder about some things there. I mean, Cinema Switch is obviously, she's made that political calculation in terms of how best for her to win re-election in
Yeah.
2024
Hmm.
is to do that she thinks that she doesn't have to face a Democrat primary. The Democrats then have to decide, do they even want to throw up a candidate, at that point in time, and what will happen there. I mean, because she is going to be vulnerable in 2024.
Hmm.
Uh, and that if the Republicans can get their act together, but I think if Trump's popularity continues to wane, then maybe the Republicans can start making back some of the lost ground they had.
Yeah. There is a guy, Carson Wolf, on YouTube, and he made there's a really good video. I think I shared it yesterday in our group chat. But Carson Wolf spoke at Towson last year. Actually, it was last year or the year before. He spoke at Towson University, which I thought was interesting. I need to talk to Bradley if they want to go hear him speak when he spoke there. But the point is, we've got we as Republicans need to go back to our roots, frankly. And Ron DeSantis is the future of the party. Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, I know it probably angered a whole bunch of MAGA people by mentioning Mike Pence's name, But, Mike Pence was a fabulous governor of Indiana. He was a great member of Congress when he was in Congress. He was a really good vice president, frankly.
He's a level-headed guy. Okay.
Yes. I mean, just because he looks like Senator Kelly from the X-Men comics who wanted to round up all the mutants in his Mutant Registration Act, it's just a mere coincidence. And by the way, Senator Kelly was a Democrat, everyone. Think about it. Let that sink in. Senator Kelly was a Democrat. He wanted to round up mutants like Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast. He wanted to round all those people up and put them into Genosha work camps. I know. So, and he was a Democrat, everyone. A Democrat. But anyways, I mean, we've had, it's been, we're getting close to the top of the hour. I think we've got time for, one quick thing. And I think since we were talking about it, Ron DeSantis is leading President Trump in a lot of the polls now.
Yeah. Donald Trump is not very happy about this.
Well, Donald Trump, here's the thing. And I've had this conversation with a lot of people. Let me tell you, President Trump's policies were great policies.
Yeah.
President Trump's mouth and Twitter was not great. If he had spoke half as much and didn't tweet it or only tweeted half as much, he'd be president right now. He would have gotten reelected. The fact that he keeps and the constant revolving door of hire, fire, hire, finally you do get to a point where you do run out of people that and I mean, he's had some bad people. I mean, he's had some good people in his administration. I know. Evidently, Mike Pompeo is now the head of the neocon wing of the Republicans. I'm like, wow, Mike Pompeo and neocon. That's kind of far fetched a little bit,
I mean, Donald Trump became his own worst enemy. I mean,
yes,
as you're right. I mean, the policies were good. They did a lot of good, but he couldn't control himself, and he really cost himself the presidency. It's not that the election was stolen and all this other garbage and nonsense. It's look in the mirror, Donald Trump. That is where the problem was, and that you could not control yourself, and therefore you cost yourself. You thought that the brashness and all the things that you said that kind of got your way into office, and all the MAGA declarations. That's a great campaign theme. It was a stroke of brilliance. It really was great to see, and the policies were fine. I didn't have a problem with most of the policies, but it's that constant barrage of stuff that you had to say. You didn't have to comment on everything, but you did want to comment on everything. You wanted the last
Yes.
word on everything, you know?
That
So,
was the biggest problem. He had to say, he had an opinion about everything.
yeah, I mean, how many people do we know that's just like, you make a comment and just let that be, right? Or something.
Hmm.
But it's like someone then would say something else, and then Trump would have to say something else in response to that, and then start making it worse,
Hmm.
you know?
I mean, honestly, if you look at it, the budget, right? He got a worse deal on the wall when he finally decided to sign the budget, frankly. And then he had to broadcast his whole thing. I'm going to move money from DOD over to the wall funding. You didn't need to telegraph that. You didn't need to telegraph all that information. You do it after the deal's done, and that's really the smart way of doing things. But
Yep.
Ron DeSantis, 2024, bring it home, Ron, bring it home.
That's
By the way,
that's
that same poll I think had Larry Hogan below 1%.
yeah. I mean, it's still early, and there's going to be a
Mhm.
lot of jockeying. There's going to be a lot of competition, but you know, Trump, I mean, he tried to strike first by making an announcement he's going to run, but after the election results from November, you know, whatever sheen that was left on Donald Trump has largely gone away.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
he's not going to go into a 2024 campaign with a whole lot of strength behind him, a lot of wind at
Yep.
his back. So but you and I both know a ton of MAGA people who will live and die MAGA and Trump.
Mhm.
There were probably some at the convention this last weekend, I guess.
Yes, there were. There were some. And look, I think we need, because Ron DeSantis will deliver Trump policy for us. He will give you the MAGA agenda without Donald Trump. And it's just one of those things. It's like you got to move on. It's like that old Kenny Rogers song, right? You got to know
Know when to
when
hold
to
them, know when to
fold.
fold them.
Yeah.
The old
If
gambler.
you want to play, yeah. Great movie, by the way. Everybody should go watch it. It's a trilogy. Actually, there's also a fourth. Actually, there is a quadology, I guess, because there are four movies. And Captain Sheridan from Babylon 5 was his sidekick in all of them. Or for some of you older fans, Scarecrow from Scarecrow and Mrs. King.
I like that show.
Yeah, that was a good show. That was back when TV shows weren't political and they didn't have a political message. Well,
Which
some would
was
say, well, that did. They were fighting the communists and KGB, so that they did have a political message. But no, not really. No. Was Mission
it's
Impossible?
almost impossible to find a TV show that isn't political, doesn't have a political undertone, and
Actually, I
that's
found there's the Goldbergs in Abbott Elementary are not as political. They're not as woke. What I do like is how Abbott Elementary just confirm every stereotype we have from big city and public schools. You got that corrupt principal. You got that wide-eyed young kid teacher who thinks Joey B's gonna cancel out his student loans, and he did now. You know, uh, and I do enjoy that show. I mean, there's so few shows, and I tell you, Nextstar's purchase of the CW is the biggest mistake. They have canceled all of the Berlanti verse, all of those shows I enjoyed watching, like Stargirl, The Flash, Superman and Lois, Legends, and they shelved. They're not doing the spin-offs that they wanted to do. They're all being canceled. Stargirl, after season 3, that should have been a 5, 6, 7 season show. It was a great show. That was actually one of the few Berlantiverse shows that didn't go woke on there. What I thought was funny, season 1, the villains were trying to implement this big, vast leftist agenda by mind control. I remember one of the kids like, "Are we sure we're on the right side?" But we're at final thoughts time. We're actually in extra innings, but final thoughts. Don, go.
yeah. We've talked about a lot of different things tonight. I mean, we didn't, you know, Elon Musk is like daily news, right? There's always something going on with Elon. I mean, he continues to drop, uh, segments of
Mm-hmm.
emails and things like that, internal conversations, documents from Twitter before he took over Twitter. It's called the Twitter files. I think he just dropped files number 6. Um, and overall, I mean, the media they've been downplaying this. They've been trying to ignore it. Uh, you know, there's probably a lot more there that has to be gone through. But
Mm-hmm.
the general feeling, I think, is just goes to show, the efforts that Twitter went through to stifle and censor conservatives, under their policies before, and only
Mm-hmm.
proving what a lot of us have known about these social media platforms, and how they had a political agenda, even though they claimed they didn't have a political agenda. Musk suspended, I don't know, what was it, up to 20 accounts from some journalists. A
Mm-hmm.
little bit specious on this. Here's the problem. One of the problems with Musk is that he claims that he wants free speech, but his argument for temporarily suspending these journalists is that they were endangering his family because of the Elon Jet, Twitter tracking of his jet plane. But not that I want to defend a bunch of journalists, but they actually weren't doing anything but saying, like, either referring to that Twitter account or retweeting something from that account. But they were not really doing their own thing about that. I mean, Musk had said that he was going to let that account stand, and something seems to have gotten under his skin. So he's kind of had this blanket ban. Uh, Musk is an interesting guy, but
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think anybody really knows where Twitter is going, because sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like that.
and by the
I
way,
don't
Don,
know.
I'm old enough to remember when Elon Musk was the darling of the left.
Right, exactly. Right, yeah, yeah. They
About a year
loved him
ago.
before, and now they pretty much despise him.
Oh, they've canceled Elon Musk, frankly.
That's why. Yeah.
Uh,
What did he tweet? Was it last week? His what is it, his pronouns or something like that were going to be
yeah,
prosecute Fauci.
yeah. And I mean, I know a lot of people. And
It
it's
might
just
maybe
it's a
maybe maybe Tesla stock is a buy now, right? It's getting pretty cheap. By just look at
yes, I know. I should have sold when it was like 1,000 plus a share. Although I did buy it early enough, so I'm still ahead of the game. But still, I feel like I've lost, even though I really haven't lost. It's only been lost on paper, but I feel like I've lost out.
Well, I mean, I think, like a lot of other things, that it's probably getting beaten down unnecessarily and unfairly.
Hmm.
I think there's when it's in this range, and it may be able to go a little bit lower, that's an opportunity for people to pick that up. I think you know, Musk has done a tremendous job of, with his cars, and I think they'll continue to be, they'll sell well.
Hmm.
The administration has surely set up EVs for very nice, sales runs with all the incentives they're doling
Hmm.
out with our money. So I think the future still is very bright for Tesla, but I
Hmm.
think I think a lot, I think some bigger investors they're kind of worried about all the stuff that's going on with Twitter, and they think it's detrimental to Tesla. But I think as long as the fundamentals of Tesla stay, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, but there is more competition. You got General Motors with their, they got Fleetwood Mac. They got that great Fleetwood Mac song, and they're pushing all their EVs they've got coming out next year. The Buick Electra line. By the way, I remember when Electra was basically a land yacht,
Yeah.
and now it's funny how the Electra is the Buick Electric. By the way, anyone ever wonder, our viewers, why Buick never got a full size SUV like the Yukon or the Yukon XL, like the Cadillac has the Escalades? I've always wondered, why doesn't Buick have a full size SUV? You know, uh, but it's great. I mean, these companies are trying innovative stuff. I mean, I think Jeep going into electric Jeeps. Jason is a big Jeep devotee. I believe he leaves ducks on other Jeep owners' cars. Like the Jeep Club of America does. They give these little ducks and they put them. By the way, the Honda Ridgeline people, they put brontosauruses on people's cars. The way the Jeep people put ducks. Yeah, I know. I never knew about that either, but I got a friend of mine in Florida. He's got a Honda Ridgeline, and he was telling me about that. I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Maybe it's Yukon people should put something on the windows or something like that. Maybe a tip to where the cheapest gas is.
That's why you have a Gas Buddy app.
Yeah, I know. I don't use Gas Buddy though. Like I don't like using GPS. I kind of like using the Force to find my way around, navigate around, and cheaper gas. Although I do know where all the cheap gas is. You go to Wawa's for the cheap gas.
Go to Costco
Wawa's.
most of the time.
Yeah, but Costco's always has long lines.
And you gotta go there early in the morning. My wife, she was making a run out to that area, out to the Columbia area. She wanted to get something out at Hobby Lobby and stuff like that. And one day she planned to go. She said, "I'm going to go to Costco early. Try to get there at between 7 and 8.
When do
For
they
the
open
gas.
their pumps? When do they open the pumps?
They open the pumps at 6 or 6:30.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Why don't they should open their stores at 6:30 too. I think.
yeah, that'd be nice. But
I
so
miss the senior. I miss the senior hours. I really
yeah,
do miss those.
yeah. I think Young would concur with you today. She said she was over at the Gaithersburg Costco and it just stressed her out.
Yeah. But although there are a lot of good finds at Costco's right now, they got good deals on iPads and Macs and iMacs. Really good deals. If you're looking, if you haven't finished your Christmas shopping like some people, or your Festivus or Hanukkah shopping.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I mean, Costco stock is probably a pretty good deal these days too, because that's gotten beaten down as well. So
yeah. And I will say, Costco's is so much better than. By the way, I think this morning I went to Costco's and I thought it was funny how everyone's just like hurting. It's like I'm like, what is this, Black Friday? Everyone's gonna stampede for stuff.
yeah, I mean, the foot traffic in Costco just is always pretty strong, almost everywhere you go.
One thing I think Costco should do is introduce paper bags or plastic bags. Frankly, I would pay for the use of those bags. Frankly, it's just so much easier to put. I don't think if you can buy one of their big Costco carrying things, but yeah, it's still kind of. I'd rather have the.
we've got bags like that from Costco. We've got them from IKEA and all those kind of things. They're in our cars, so we just wheel the cart to our car, put them in the
Yeah,
bags in the car, and then that's it. We don't do it in the store. We just do it, in the parking lot, and
yeah.
then carry the stuff inside the house.
And but another thing Costco's could do, which would make life easier, like how at Safeway and Giant, you could just take the gun and shoot the stuff, and you don't have to like move stuff out of your cart onto the scanner, right? If they did that at Costco's, that'd be great. Because you gotta unload the cart, put it on there, then you put the stuff back in the cart again. If I could just zap everything in the cart, that'd be great.
Yeah, because I think Sam's Club, they have lots of self checkout lanes,
Hmm.
but they have a handheld scanner, so you can just do that. So they don't have, they're not. They do their things a little bit differently because Costco is also what a lot of other retailers do is that they want you to be able to put it into that bagging area so that they can
Yep.
determine that the weight of the product matches what you
Yep.
scan, theoretically make sure that you're not ripping them off. But
Hmm.
Costco's, Sam's Club, part of their fraud, trying to their theft detection is
Hmm.
you can't leave the store without having your receipt scanned, and then they usually scan a few items as a check to make sure
Hmm.
it matches up, and then they
Yep.
let you go. So
Yeah.
there's different
And I'll
ways
tell
of
you what, Costco's many times, if you go there early enough, there's usually a couple of employees there that do have those scanners, and before they'll just come up to you, they'll just zap
right,
everything in
right. I
your
mean,
cart
right,
for
right. I
you.
mean, and they're pretty good because they see if you've got the water,
Yeah.
You don't want to you don't want to pick up the water and do things. I didn't realize the first time I bought water at Giant at one time, right? I didn't realize that all I had to do was press the button on the checkout thing and
Yeah.
find the water and hit that and tell them how many I bought.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're
Right.
usually they're pretty good. Depending upon how busy they are, sometimes they'll scan almost everything in your cart for you, and then all
Yep.
you gotta do is pay and go.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but it's what I think is funny is I grew up drinking tap water. Now I never drink tap water. Has tap water? I don't know. Maybe tap water just doesn't taste as good as it does, or we didn't care, or my parents were just didn't want to buy bottled water.
Yeah, I mean, I'm drinking bottled water, whether or not it's the purified water or the spring
Yeah,
water. But that's
same.
I never drink tap water unless that's what's being served at a restaurant, right?
That's why I don't drink the water at the restaurants because it is tap water, most. And you think places like Cheesecake Factory would give you Perrier, frankly?
Yeah, yeah, because I've been in a little higher quality restaurants where when you ask for the water, it's actually they'll actually pour it out of the bottled water into your glass for you, right?
Yes.
So you know what the source is and all.
Yeah, my friend Sabrina would say, "How do you know they didn't just fill it up from the tap and just bring it here in the bottle?"
All right, I've said enough. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, my final thoughts. Thank you, Maryland Republicans. I was elected third vice chair last Saturday. I will do my best to represent you guys. It was a lot of fun, and I hope to hear from all of you. I gave out my cell phone and email address, so I hope to keep the cards and letters coming, as Sven Gulli would say.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
know,
I should have said congratulations to you earlier.
yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, the morning was a little rambunctious, little shades of 2011. Don, remember that convention? All we needed was Rick and Flary's brother to come around and knock people's cameras out of their hands and punch people in it. I don't know why it just strikes me to a Family Guy bit where you know how they have that chicken coming in or whatever. Yeah, I could that'd be a funny animated. Anyways, but other final thoughts is the year is coming to a close. Uh, we were the first we our first show in January will be our awards and prediction show. It's a lot of fun. Our loyal listeners have gotten, as well as a bunch of select writers around the country, I should say, got the Mailchimp link to submit their thoughts on awards we're giving out. So that'll be coming up soon uh, in January for our first show in January. So. And let's see what else. So I haven't finished my Christmas shopping yet, so please don't be out on the road tomorrow because I'm going to be on the road. So, but I'm going to go early in the morning because I think everything opens up at 8. So I'm going to get there early. What is they opens? I'll be in and out in 15 minutes. This year it started with such a great promise when I bought the first thing I wanted in July for Christmas, and then not July. I'm saying October. And then, I was thinking, hey, I'm going to be done. And I go, oh, I got plenty of time. I got plenty. And now here we are, a week before Christmas. So, anyways, that's all I've got pretty much. And we'll see everyone next week for our last show for 2022. We'll be off between Christmas and New Year's. So, next week next week we might have a little bit of a different type of fun show. We'll have a lot of audience participation. Give us your Christmas messages and greetings and so on. It'll be a lot of fun. Or we'll just talk politics like we normally do. And that seems to be
We'll mix it all up, see what happens, right?
exactly. We're basically we're the virtual town hall. Come on, come on. So thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
All right, good night.